gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the 28th Convergence India and the 6th Smart City India Awards. I'm Chandrika Behel, Managing Director of the Exhibitions India Group. It's my distinct honor to welcome you all here today to our inaugural session on the future roadmap to 5G. While there has been much anticipation about the rollout of 5G, we are finally at a stage where it is imminent, and that makes the deliberations all the more important. I'd like to invite our esteemed guests onto the stage. Moderating the session is Mr. Shobit Agarwal, Partner Industry KPMG in India. Welcome, Shobit. Delivering the keynote address, we're honored to have Shri P.D. Waghela, Chairman TRAI. Sir, thank you so much for being here. Our distinguished speakers, Mr. N.G. Subramaniam, Chairman TSDSI and COO TCS, Mr. Hari Om Rai, Chairman and Managing Director, Lava International, Mr. Vikram Tivatia, Deputy Director General COAI, and Mr. R.K. Pathak, Deputy Director General, Department of Telecom. Thank you for being here, and over to you, Shobit.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here for this session on the future roadmap of 5G. Firstly, I would again like to welcome the audience as well as my distinguished speakers and panelists, starting with Shri Waghela ji, who's the chairman of TRAI. You know, it's a very uneasy crown to wear, because irrespective of how much you deliberate, how much you be pragmatic, the fingers first get pointed always at the regulator. For any problems, it's always the regulator or the department. So, sir, thank you for spending time with us. It's a pleasure to have you spend time with us. Then we have Mr. R.K. Pathak, sir, the DDG at Department of Telecom. Mr. Hari Om Rai, sorry about that. Mr. Hari Om Rai, the Chairman and Managing Director for Lava International. Mr. Rai will obviously talk about device availability. I think that is something that we look forward from him. Mr. N.G. Subramaniam, he is the COO of Tata Consultancy Services and the Chairman TDDSI. And Mr. Vikram Tivatia, who is the Deputy Director General of the Cellular Operators Association of India. You know, as we talk about 5G, it conjures up a lot of impressions and a lot of ideas. It's been reflected to be one of the solutions to almost all problems that we face today around connectivity, data speeds, latency, security, etc. So what exactly is it? 5G is really, it's not about mobile networks. It's actually a network of networks that pulls in the strengths of various technologies to get things through. It will be the main vehicle of how we actually start communicating over the next years, to the extent that 5G gets superseded by 6G. It will drive digital transformation with a profound change to communications that impact the triad of our society, which is the government, the enterprise, and the consumers. 5G will also drive ancillary technologies like artificial intelligence, IoT, robotics, AR, VR, edge computing, and shall also be at the center stage of any data-driven initiatives. We know that data-driven initiatives today are becoming center stage for any enterprise, for any government, both from an efficient delivery as well as production. As enterprises undergo digital transformation to stay ahead of the curve, robustness of these networks is going to be critical to this success. With networks going virtualized and digital, it is imperative to manage threats and vulnerabilities emerging out of it, and therefore cyber security and data security and privacy will be crucial. Now, how is 5G around the world? So we know that almost 100 plus operators have already started and are in various stages of 5G deployment. Some have done it on an experimental basis, some have done it on experimental spectrum being allocated to them, and some are already launching commercially. The US and South Korea, which have been leading this initiative, actually did the first G deployments way back in 2018. And by 2025, if I was to look at a crystal gaze, 5G will almost have 50% of the total subscribers under it, with China possibly the largest absolute number, which could be anywhere between 400 to 450 million subscribers. So how does that augur from an Indian landscape? Obviously, government has a very crucial role to play in allowing 5G and Industry 4.0 to deliver their full potential. The ecosystem comprising of the spectrum and its related regulation, the infrastructure, in particular the backhaul, equipment and device manufacturing, and related incentives, the logistics, resources and their skill set development, and the buyers and suppliers all need to be harmonized and play an integral part in the success of the deployed technology. Like I said, where do we stand in India on this? Hopefully, at the dawn of this promise, I would now like to engage our leaders and industry experts to deliberate on how we are poised to benefit from the technology and perhaps what it would take to synchronize our efforts to derive the benefits from this technology that promises so much. In this session, I will just quickly round up on how we intend to conduct this. We will have the keynote from the TRAI chairman, Shiva Gelaji, followed by opening comments from each of the fellow panelists. And then I will try and ask them 1 or 2 questions as the time permits. And then we'll open it to questions to the public, followed by the concluding remarks. So with that, may I request the TRAI chairman, Shiva Gelaji, to give his opening comments, please.
Good morning and welcome to this very, very important event. Mr. Vikram Tewatia, DG COI, Anand Bhaskar, MD Cisco, Mr. Pathak, DDG from DOT, Hariom Rai, Chairman and Managing Director, Lava International, NG Subramaniam, CEO, Tata Consultancy Services and Chairman of TS Desai, and Sri Hari Ranjan Rao, Hari Ranjan Rao, Joint Secretary Telecom, Department of Telecommunication. At the outset, I would like to congratulate India Trade Promotion Organization and Exhibition India Group for organizing this Convergence India 2021. I would also like to thank ITPO for inviting me to address this session on future roadmap on 5G. This event is being organized very timely, and India is likely to experience 5G services very soon. 5G is the 5th generation of mobile technology which enables a new kind of network that is designed to connect virtually everyone and everything, including machines, objects, and devices. As the demand for continuous connectivity grows, 5G has an opportunity to create an agile, purpose-built network tailored to the different needs of citizens and the economy. Deploying 5G will allow operators to move beyond connectivity and collaborate across sectors including finance, transport, retail, education and health to deliver new innovative services to consumers and business entities. Actually, this has already started under 4G, but 5G will take it to a higher level. 5G is more than just an evolutionary step to the new generation of technology. This is what we need to understand. This is likely to generate a new growth avenues, boost industrial productivity, and has the potential to transform the socio-economic fabric of the society. And here we need to be very, very careful, and we need to have a calibrated approach of deploying 5G because it will have impact not only on the economy but on the society also. 5G will provide seamless coverage, high data rate, low latency, and highly reliable communication. It will increase energy efficiency, spectrum efficiency, network efficiency, as well as efficiency of other systems. 5G provides significant improvement in network performance characteristics over the previous generation. In addition, it is expected to add various service dimensions beyond the traditional voice and data through enabling technology like IoT, artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, augmented reality, virtual reality, and many other technologies which are in future can come up. Naturally, this will give rise to use cases across all industry verticals. As far as India is concerned, telecom connectivity has now become lifeline for all economic activities. Recently, when COVID-19 pandemic led to severe socio-economic disruptions globally with multiple lockdowns, and again this, this disruption has started. It is telecommunication network which has kept people connected. The pandemic has led to increased adoption of digital technologies. The uptake of e-services, OTT platforms, and entertainment, e-commerce for banking transactions, online education, e-governance has increased. Telecom connectivity kept citizens connected and allowed governments to continue to function, communicate with and serve the citizens. Due to pandemic, the need to stay connected and continue to function emerged from various stakeholders, enterprises, industries, educational institutions, manufacturing units, healthcare sector, retail, housing societies, and many other sectors. During this period, this is very surprising, there has been an increase in number of broadband subscription and data usage. The broadband subscription has increased from 644 million in October 2019 to now 757 million in January 2021. The per month data usage has increased from 6.3 exabyte. 1 exabyte is 6.3 exabyte, that is 6,300 million gigabytes. Then, which is almost 40% increase in just 1 year. Today, India has largest number of mobile data consumers in the world. As of January 2021, there are close to 1.16 billion mobile sub-connections. Average data usage per subscriber is 20 gigabyte per month. Again, this is one of the highest. And I need not tell, India's the per GB rates are one of the lowest in the world. Actually, it is ridiculously low, let me tell you. 5G technology is a complete transformation of cellular technology. The superior performance in terms of ultra-reliable low-latency communication, high-speed mobile broadband, and massive machine-type communications are possible in 5G because of 3 features. One is network function virtualization, that is placing core and RAN on cloud. Second is software-defined network, that means network parameters can be controlled by software. Third is massive MIMO antenna technology, that means multiple input, multiple output. This will, in a single antenna, you can have multiple MIMOs, many antennas. Then last but not least, this network slicing. A separate network slice for specific use cases can be created very easily. As I said in the beginning, 5G technology coupled with IoT and many other technologies will give rise to numerous use cases covering almost every economic verticals. I did not name them. Initiative, now coming to what government is doing, I think we are already on the job, and government has started taking initiative to ensure that the country benefits by launch of 5G services in a timely manner. To achieve this goal, various steps have been taken by the government. It was discussed, everyone knows that government has declared a National Digital Communication Policy 2018 with an objective to lead India to a realm of new digital first world. The policy aims to facilitate the implementation of new technologies such as 5G, IoT, M2M, and others. It also envisages attracting $100 billion worth of investments and generating over 4 million jobs in the telecom sector by 2022. The implementation of 5G and associated technology will help unlock transformative power of digital communication network. It will enable India to achieve digital empowerment of all citizens and improve their well-being. Recently, 2 schemes which have been implemented by DOT and MIT is likely to give boost to the local manufacturing and realizing the aim of Make in India as far as telecom is concerned. The Indian government launched a program titled Building an End-to-End 5G Test Bed to advance innovation and research in 5G. The goal of the program is to build proof of concept 5G prototypes that are broadly compliant with the 3GPP standards. Soon the test bed will be operational and will be available to startups and innovators for testing their products and applications. In July 2019, DOT issued guidelines for 5G trials across all available spectrum bands, indicating to allocate up to 400 megahertz of radio waves for experimental purposes. And we all know that the allotment of spectrum for experimental purposes has already started. Sufficient spectrum is being made available in mid-band that is 3,300 to 3,600 megahertz for deployment of 5G network. What is very important is that the telecom operators, they should get adequate spectrum if they really want to implement the 5G in the proper manner. Also, government is also already working on identifying sufficient spectrum in millimeter wave. 5G will be used only for the not only for the telecom sectors, but by other sectors also. 5G can be used for bridging the urban-rural gap and further improving digital inclusion. The key functional drivers of 5G will unlock a broad range of opportunities, including optimization of service delivery, decision-making, and end-user experience. Significant economic and social value can be generated by enabling use cases activated by 5G. As per the DOT's high-level forum report, 5G is predicted to create a cumulative economic impact of $1 trillion by 2035 in India. Ericsson has estimated that the revenue potential for 5G enabled digitalization in India will be above $27 by 2026. As per the Qualcomm report, the 5G value chain, including OEMs, operators, content creators, application developers, and consumers, could alone support up to 22.3 million jobs globally. Further, many emerging and new applications will continue to come up in 5G as the entrepreneurs will come up with innovative ideas and use cases. What are the challenges? And this is very, very important. What are the challenges? We have done a lot of things have been done, but we need to have a calibrated approach if we want to implement 5G, which will be in a very, very in a manner which is comprehensive and full benefit of the 5G can be taken. One thing which I say that in India, around only 30% sites are connected on fiber and the rest are on microwave links. Presently available wireless backhaul solutions with operators will not be enough. E-band is an important band which can be used for providing rapid and economic deployment of backhaul in dense urban routes for proliferation of wireless service quickly. TRAI has already recommended for early opening of E-band and V-band. Enabling policies such as right-of-way rules, 2016 National Digital Communication Policy 2018 are in place. Ecosystem for ROW, IBS, power connection and street furniture requires to be further strengthened. Such ecosystem should provide for faster online and non-discriminatory time-bound permissions at reasonable charges. We need to understand that such infrastructure will help the states and cities to offer the best connectivity to the potential investors in light of Industry 4.0 and use of technologies like M2M, AI, VR and other technologies. Robust telecom infrastructure will also allow states and cities to exploit potentials of 5G for their own citizens and for faster economic growth of the cities and the states. I believe revenue aspect for such permission should take a backseat. Rather, states should come out with policies to attract investment in data centers, parks and telecom infrastructure. For creating such an ecosystem, the center, the states and the local bodies will be required to work at tandem. TRAI has already started work in this direction and we intend to give recommendation and comprehensive recommendation for giving online permission for all such important approvals. As 5G network supports a massive number of connected devices, we have to take proactive steps to ensure data privacy and security. This cannot be overemphasized. Government has already placed a personal data protection bill of 2019 in Parliament. I hope that personal protection bill should also take care of the investment concern of the people, said that it should not be so harsh that the people, the investors are worried of investing in the country. Telecom is a capital-intensive sector. Sharing of infrastructure and resources play a vital role in bringing down cost and improving affordability of services. While on one hand, it helps in speedy rollout of services and applications, on the other hand, it maximizes return on investment and thereby attracts more investment and creates new jobs. To promote infrastructure sharing, TRAI has already recommended to enhance the scope of infrastructure providers. There can be different opinion, but I think this is very, very important, and to permit them to own and share active infrastructure also. Sharing is the key to success, especially with latest technologies such as 5G. To tap the revenue potential of 5G, telecom industry needs to take proactive steps to collaborate with industry verticals and to work on the different use cases. I did not actually tell almost each and every telecom operator started working in this. if we really want the digital inclusion, this is very important, because yesterday only in ITU there was a conference on digital divide, and I think country like India, where both digital literacy as well as access to the connectivity and devices is a cause of concern. We need to concentrate on digital inclusion, and for that, central and state governments will be required to promote startups who will come up with innovative use cases for benefit of various segments of society, including students, farmers, fishermen, artisans, workers, small industries, and most important, informal sector. It would be a great idea if ministries and department concerned set up use case labs for their sectors and start dialogue with the startups and other stakeholders for research and development of indigenous use cases, applications, and required commensurate policies. 5G, the 5G calls for adoption of collaborated approach. Merely putting in place 5G technology will not be enough. I have already told this. It is adoption of the tailored use cases which will help the country in achieving economic growth. We all need to play a role, and everyone has to do one's bit. TRAI has initiated dialogue with different ministries and departments for an early adoption of 5G use cases. TRAI is also working on recommendation of creating an ecosystem for growth of requisite telecom infrastructure. I hope the collaborated efforts will bridge the gap and make India shine. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Vaghela sir, on this. I think, like I said, one of the most difficult tasks of a regulator is to try and keep an eye on every view, whether it be what is the infrastructure requirement, whether what is the regulation around that thing, how would you actually enable, how would you enforce, and how would you encourage. I think that is a very important aspect that I saw in Mr. Vaghela's statement and opening remarks, that it is not only to put out what is the obvious, but how will you encourage the adoption? And not only the adoption of such a technology in the urban areas, but how will you do it in the hitherto remote areas? How will it really be an enabler for the smaller sector? How will it really become the, the vehicle of choice for a lot of these, the artisans, the individuals? Because only when you get adoption in the real sense at an individual level, will you see that there will be success at the overall level. So with that, I would now obviously request each of my esteemed panelists to give what they feel are some of the opening remarks and their areas of emphasis in the ecosystem that will help make 5G a success. So may I at first call upon Mr. Subramaniam to mention what he would like to say on the 5G roadmap going forward. Mr. Subramaniam, sir.
Please. Good afternoon, and at the outset, let me wish you all a safe conference. Mr. Vaghela ji and distinguished members on the dais, thank you for being here and sharing your views. I think India has been noted in the last 12 months specifically for about 2 or 3 things. How well we have managed the pandemic, I think the world is noticing it. How well our telecom infrastructure has helped millions of people to continue to work and contribute to the resilience of the whole world. I think that is again something that people have noted. And the way in which we have contributed to the vaccine development and now giving vaccine to the whole world is again very well noted. So the advancements of technology, the infrastructure, the whole startup ecosystem, the digital payment stack, or India stack as it is called, is the envy of the world today. And our telecom infrastructure and whatever we have rolled out as government policies, procedures, security, all that have contributed immensely to this. And in his speech, Mr. Waghela ji had quite remarkably articulated that 5G is going to accelerate all this by a factor. That is the potential that we have. And 5G is an era where everything is going to be softwareized. And software is India's strength. So in that context, I believe that the Indian industry, especially the IT industry and the manufacturing industry, has the opportunity to leapfrog and take the bull by the horns and contribute to the welfare of the nation. 5G broadly has two elements to it. One is consumer part of it. The other is the industrial part of it. Consumer part will be satisfied by the ever increasing demand for speed of download, speed of uploads. I think 5G will satisfy that appetite, no doubt about it. But beyond that, if consumers have to benefit by the 5G, then a whole lot of ecosystems have to evolve, which is the application part of it, how apps are going to be developed for the benefit of the consumer, and the real app ecosystem and the real use cases are being tried out from the consumer side of it. But the biggest beneficiaries, in my opinion, is going to be on the industrial side of it. Because industries have the opportunity to roll out private 5G networks. Industries have the opportunity to roll out networks and technology within their factories or within their offices, which has the potential to increase their productivity and velocity and throughput and so on and so on. To that, in order to benefit all this, I think fiberization is important. I think Mr. Waghela ji talked about it. Broadband is very important. Public hotspots, I think the government came up with Wi-Fi access network interface, or WANI, and that's going to revolutionize the availability of the public Wi-Fi infrastructure, both in the rural and semi-urban areas, which is going to be very, very important. And Mr. Waghela ji also talked about the cloud, investments in data center and the like. In that context, from a standards perspective, cloud interoperability, cloud neutrality as standards are going to be very important. And the next point is about when you want to develop apps on the 5G, there has to be a standards for the apps layer, which is something that TSDSI is also looking at it very seriously. The next aspect is that the labs that we need to test out the use cases and apps is equally important, because just like if you want to develop an iPhone app or an Android app, you develop it, you test it, and then you certify it. And that kind of a certification mechanism is equally important to make sure that the apps function responsibly in the overall ecosystem. See, overall, I think, 5G is very important. And I personally believe that the odd Gs, 1G, 3G, they have not stayed for long. But the even Gs are supposed to be very stronger. The 2G has been sufficient, 4G has been there for a long time. So my own take is that 5G will lay down the infrastructure, will do a lot of catching up on that side, but much of the features will get probably exploited in the 6G, and 6G will probably stay for longer. But personally, I also wish that 5G should come and play a very important role. So education awareness is important, application labs and assurance labs is important, application layer standards are important, adapting international standards are important, cloud neutrality, cloud interoperability standards are important. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Subramaniam. I think, true to what you, really lead, the Telecommunication Standards Development Institute, I think that is, it's a very important aspect of the entire proliferation. Do we have enough standards that are defined? Because standards are going to be the preemptive layer, which will help each of the partakers in the ecosystem to do whatever measures they need to provide the solution. Next, may I request Mr. R.K. Pathak, DDG, Department of Telecommunication, to talk about what he would see from a regulation perspective and how the 5G roadmap would actually be. Please.
Good afternoon, namaste to all of you. And thanks Mr. Shobhit Agrawal, respected Sri P.D. Baghela sir, for giving the background in fact of 5G, what are the various advantages, and Mr. N.G. Subramaniam on the other actions which are required in standardization. I am from Department of Telecommunication, so I would like to share certain definite action taken by Department of Telecommunication. I feel humble and it's very pleasant and pride moment for me to be part of this event, and that's all on 5G. So in fact, I have been the 5G member secretary of 5G high level forum, which I will be just sharing subsequently what is meant by 5G high level forum. So let us say that 2G, 3G, 4G, this all India is only aware of what is the G means generation. We have never been the part of innovation. So what is meant by the generation? Simply we have used it as a consumer, as I think rightly pointed out by Mr. N.G. Subramaniam sir, that it's for the connectivity part, consumer we have satisfied. Once it comes 5G, this G is different. It's not mere connectivity, it's not the more wires for the consumer, but industry that's predominantly designed for the industry, one can say, and that will make lot of difference. So though it can be, one can say 5th G for the wires connectivity, or one can say one of the next generation for connecting people, but it's the first generation for the machines. So entirely we have to define it differently once it comes to the machine part. And as I have been told earlier that 5G, India has never been part of the innovation as a innovator, technology innovator. Keeping this all the things in view, the government constituted a high level forum and first co-chaired by 3 secretaries: Secretary Department of Telecommunication, Secretary Ministry of Electronics and IT, and Secretary Department of Science and Technology, said that we all work in a cohesive manner with a targeted goal to achieve certain things. And they gave their recommendations making India 5G ready. And one of the important recommendations one can say is vision that deploy 5G network early, efficiently and pervasively, emerge as a significant innovator. I think I was expecting from my previous speaker, why innovator? I'll be just sharing and strengthening Make in India and technology supplier at the global level. So most of the recommendations of NDCP related to policy has been incorporated in National Digital Communication Policy for making India a technology provider. First time we have made this efforts in the policy of, that's why this digital communication policy. And there are various recommendations. Important is spectrum policy, that we should have our spectrum roadmap clear for not only for current year but for future years also. So we are working on that. There is a process defined. It's not that we have to do all the work in a day. Same way as a regulatory policy, I think that is the question posed to me, that why 5G is different. So definitely 5G will be different because even the security aspect will be different. Even there will be some net neutrality also. There will be a lot of fiberization. So the existing, our regulations may not be sufficient. So we have to work, and we have started working on those and setting up the use case labs. Earlier, it was just mere connectivity. There was nothing, no relations with the what is the various use cases, industrial use cases, or different verticals like maybe health, maybe education, maybe certain even industry 4.0. So it means, and including application layer standard, because we have been all using just standard without knowing can we contribute it. So this is very much important that India should take the lead, being the software giant and doing the work for others, develop its own standard, develop its own contribute on the application layer standard, so that whenever there is application, there is some IPR's contribution from India. So these are the various actions to be taken by government, and we are taking right steps in this direction. So let me just say that the first part was the standardization. and standardization with the help of TSDSI, with the help of startups, industry, India has been able to get approved by ITU, in International Telecom Union, one of the 5G candidate technology. They call it 5Gi. So 5Gi is from India and one of the standard for 5G. So this, I think I would like to congratulate to TSDSI, who is here. I think he never shared this, but that is the work done by them along with the government. Next comes that what are the other actions on the use case development. Department of Telecommunication has funded 8 premier academic institutions for setting up indigenous 5G test bed. So what is important that in this test bed that will be operational this year itself, it has already crossed 2 stages, and any startup, MSME, industry can use that test bed. Test bed is, one can say, like we do in universities, in a different boxes. So you can go and check at any particular time what is the development, what are the various corrective actions you have to take, and that is in a distributed platform. So even you can use certain facilities at IIT Madras or CIVIT from some other locations also for the certain testing. And it's at IIT Madras, IIT Hyderabad, IIT Kanpur, Delhi, Mumbai, Samir, CIVIT. And industry and startups are also associated with this. Along with this, we have set up first use case lab, which is being mentioned here, and that is in fintech sector, because financial inclusion very much important for India, and that is IDRBT, Hyderabad and RBI institution. We have set up it, and they have started working, making applications using 5G. As far as what are the various India-specific applications, so let me say that last year we invited 5G hackathon, and there were 3 phases. Under phase 1, we were supposed to choose 100 potential use cases, in second 30, and then 3. And we were just encouraged to get 2 to the power 10 applications. Exactly 1024 applications were submitted by Indian entrepreneurs, more than 700 from students and startups. And we have already shortlisted 100 potential use cases. They are in the phase 2 of product development. So there, Department of Telecommunication has taken a lot of actions for making India 5G ready and creating enabling framework. I think PLI in telecom networking products, which has also been announced on 24th, notified on 24th February, is one of the activity for even making the products 4G, 5G and any future products making in India for the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Pathak sir. I think what you mentioned towards the end is something that is very important. You may have all the infrastructure, you may have all the individuals, you may have the users, suppliers, but till you do not have adequate testing facilities, you do not have the testing beds, you will never be able to test what really is going in for commercial deployment. And that's a very important aspect of what the department has actually been enabled as he. Next, may I call on Mr. Vikram Tewatia, the Deputy Director General of COAI, to give his opening remarks and give us a perspective from the industry and from the infrastructure. Mr. Tewatia, please.
Shobhit, thank you very much, and thank you to the organizers. It's a pleasure to be here back again at Pragati Maidan and in the environment that you see outside. The last whole year we've gone past talking into a screen, and talking to live people is really a welcome thing, and I'm so delighted to be part of this event today. And compliments to Convergence India, and thank you to Waghela Saab for leading up some very interesting points that he shared today. But before I go further, we have a small message from our Director General Kochhar, in whose place I'm standing in today, because he's a little unwell because of a back or a slip disc, and he conveyed that he was very pleased to be part of this elite and formidable panel, and was looking forward to joining the discussions. Because 5G is very exciting, and it's going to open up huge new vistas, particularly as what has been highlighted, not just connecting people, but connecting machines as well. So you can talk to machines as well. And he indicated that, because he's unwell, but he looks forward to the outcome of the discussions, and he conveys his compliments to Dhruv personally for organizing this, as well as he misses his father and his friend Prem Behel. And I'm sure Prem is happy seeing that this creation is actually, doing so well. So that was the message to begin with. And what I would now like to, take stock what Waghela Saab said. So one is the Indian telecom sector in the last 1 year, particularly as Subramaniam Saab also said, has been put through a very rigorous stress test in the last 12 months. Exactly, March till now. When it started, so the traffic patterns shifted. Instead of typically the traffic, the network is designed based on the consumption pattern. So the central business districts would have more, deployments, but that pattern shifted to, distributed around the residential areas and in building. Now, obviously, inside buildings, the network was not of a nature. So one of the first things we did was the maximum traffic or data that's consumed is video. So we had to calibrate the HD video with SD video and, take immediate reactions, proactive reactions in collaborating with our other stakeholders to make sure that the consumer end is well looked after, right? So there's been great learning in this. But as was highlighted, the Indian telecom sector, while we've done a marvelous job, 13 GB per individual consumption, right? And which is the highest in the world. The next nearest is South Korea, which is 8.5. And they have a 5G network, by the way. We don't, right? But still, India is there as far as consumption goes. And that, again, is with 1/3 the amount of spectrum access and no backhaul, right? Microwave hasn't been allocated for some years now. And as was mentioned earlier, fiber. Now, 5G cannot happen if you do not fiberize the country. Both physical fiber plus fiber in the air, which Waghela Saab mentioned, E and V bands. There is no way that you're going to dig up a Connaught Place or a Dharavi or Bombay or high-tech city. It has to be fiber in the air. The other relationship of that, which is very important, is, we are talking of our software prowess, right? The opportunity of Open RAN. Yes, Open RAN is a great opportunity. It will free up stuff. But what is the challenge for India? If you do not have fiber, you will not have Open RAN. Because Open RAN means I am able to put all the data that's being generated or the software-oriented cloud-based services, I have to move that. And how do I move it if I don't have fiber or ENV band, right? So a very important part is maybe, if TRAI wants to take up a special technical, workshop or something on, potential of Open RAN and what in India we need to do is one part I thought I'd share. I know there's a lot, but the other part is we did good effort, which Pathak Saab mentioned, in 2018 with the high-level forum report, with the NDCP. We have to convert that into action on ground. Executable orders have to be issued. Because, as we all know, globally, countries are already deployed commercial networks. People are using it. Now, why is it such a hot item politically? Or, previously, 4G was not a political item, right? It is because it impacts the efficiency of a country. In engineering terms, efficiency is equal to output by input. Now, what 5G will help us do, and which is so important for India, is to reduce the cost of inputs. If I'm producing, India is the biggest producer of milk in the world. Now, milk has a very short shelf life. How can I use 5G technologies from growing the plant to the cattle, to the transportation, to the food processing? Now, that efficiency, when you mention of a use case, right, that enhances the efficiency of one of my verticals and therefore the efficiency of a country when you combine it. So another suggestion which I had and we've shared is, how can we map the digital readiness index of verticals? You see, if the health data is not available digitized, I might have a 5G network, but I can't build an application or write an algorithm to convert the data into a service. Talk about health, talk about education, logistics or what. So one of the considerations is that we need to have a conversation, because typically in a TRAI open house, it's only the telcos or telco related people. I'm curious, why would the education people or the health people not demand spectrum? Recent spectrum auction, right? Out of the total amount of spectrum, only 40% has gone out. Now, if you don't use the spectrum which is available, means it's a case of a lost opportunity, right? So we need to get our act together as to how do we use the national asset spectrum in a more efficient manner. Of course, the spectrum audits, and I'm assured TRAI in the government is seized about the matter. And as far as COI goes, we are very, we are always in regular conversation. How do we enhance the efficiency of and usage of spectrum? So there is a spectrum roadmap being drawn out, but the important part is at what pace. You see, if other countries have already deployed 5G, and we are talking today of a future 5G roadmap. So is the future 2 years? Is it 4 years? It's 5 years. So we need to, just because once you fix a target, then you have monitoring achievement of targets. And if the monitoring or data is saying that you're not achieving these targets, let's say, just for example, the NDCP says 50 Mbps per connection, right? Today we are at 13 Mbps as per OpenSignal. Now if this 13 has to become 50, what do you need to do? Year on year, there's a monitoring that can happen. And the good news is with this spectrum auction, immediately the number of carriers on the base stations on existing infrastructure we can ramp up because we had less spectrum. But the challenge again is in taking that back. So backhaul is extremely important. Now, Tarang Sanchar today, there's a portal, I don't know if you've not heard, all the base stations in the country you can see on Tarang Sanchar. In fact, you can see where 2G, 3G, 4G, and where you live or work. That indicates today 22 lakh base stations, out of which 80% are LTE, right? And these are located on 6 lakh sites. So to move from 13 Gbps to 50 Gbps, as a thumb, these 22 lakh base stations, if nothing, have to double to 44 lakhs. And most of it will be, let's say, you can ramp up the existing ones, but huge amount of network densification by small cells in building, because where are you going to consume it? In building, and because 5G spectrum is higher, the range is smaller. So you have to bring the network from top of a tower down inside the building as part of your street furniture. Unless that happens, so you need the rules, regulations which Chairman TRAI alluded to, but that is the network densification that has to happen. And if it is not happening, then what is the monitoring mechanism? So one of the things that we've been talking of is a central right-of-way portal, where every state, number of applications submitted, what is the timeline, and are they being approved or not? And of course, there is another interesting thing, is the broadband readiness index of states, to create a competitiveness between states, so that when you have a happening Haryana or amazing Bengal or something of that nature, now investors will see what does your digital network look like, right? So if I'm a cycle manufacturer or a SME, obviously the first thing I'm going to look for is, hey, do I have a digital network available, right? Of course, there's a lot more, but I think at this stage, I'll stop at that. But it's very exciting times ahead, and there's a lot of good work happening both at the government and at the TRAI. So the important part is to work with other verticals, because they are going to be the users. So it's good news that the chairman mentioned, you have to speak to the education sector, logistics sector, transportation, shipping, aviation, all these. Because some of the, one of the real potential use cases, Waghela Sahab, I saw was in the cricket matches. You see, in stadiums, they're not occupied throughout the year. I can use a drone, fly in a small cell, put it all across, put in a 5G network, because high definition TV. So in Olympics in Japan, they're going to do that, right? So exciting times, happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tewatia. I think, you know, numbers always conjure up a lot of excitement, and thank you for giving in those. But a couple of things that you mentioned, and you know, I work with KPMG, and we've been central to the government's effort on ease of doing business. And obviously, I'll request Shri Vaghela ji to also elaborate on that when I ask the questions, because I think you touched a very, very important point, that somewhere this has to be an enabler to doing the business, because this is more towards enterprise technology than more consumer. But finally, what will form the backbone of all of this use case are the consumers. And if you look at it for consumer, there are two aspects that are very important. One, what is it that I get from my operator in terms of the tariff plan and the privileges, etc., that come with the 5G. But another very important component of that is really the device. Till I do not have my device, no consumer can actually access the network. And if you can't access the network, all the investments are really not there or what they are. So I would then request our next speaker, Mr. Hariom Rai, Chairman Lava International, to actually talk about what are his opening comments. And I think because that's the area which is closest to our heart, I would request if he can elaborate on that and then take on further questions post that, please. Mr. Rai, thank you.
So thank you very much. Mr. Vaghela ji, Chairman TRAI, my distinguished panel members, and all the audience here. It's a pleasure to be here. And a lot of technical information and technology information has been shared with you. Let me try to shift a little and share with you the device opportunity, the manufacturing opportunity, the design opportunity in India. Of course, with reference to the 5G and the smartphones. And to do that, I'm going to share three things with you. Number one is the big picture, how the world is actually staged. What is the scenario today? The second would be the importance of smartphones, all with respect to manufacturing and the ecosystem creation. The importance of smartphone and what are we looking at going forward in the manufacturing and design of smartphone in India, and what kind of opportunities because of that are going to come up so that our people can dream and dream big. So fundamentally, we had missed the bus of manufacturing because of whatever we have done in the past some time back, and most of the manufacturing was centered around China. However, almost like a cosmic creation, that this is the best time because of certain geopolitical contexts, which I would not like to elaborate further, are in place. Secondly, as the China has been growing consistently because what they did to their economy, their per capita income also grew very fast. So today, we are just 17% of Chinese per capita income. And once the per capita income grows, the manufacturing and low-end design and technology shifts actually. It has been happening over the ages since from Europe to US to Japan to Korea to Taiwan to China. In China, it stayed for very long because the population of China is very large and the growth of per capita happened very slowly, despite what people believe that the growth of China was very fast. So, because of these two big things, there is no doubt that manufacturing is moving out and is going to move out. A large part of manufacturing is going to move out of China. And we in India, because of our fundamentals of the human capital, the lower per capita income today what we have, the design and technological prowess which we have in terms of our IT strengths in India, and lastly and most importantly, the potential market which we are going to create in India in time to come. So sometime, people feel that India market is very large. But I think it is an erroneous belief because we are just 3.2% of the global GDP. While in terms of numbers, we are 18%. But in terms of value, just 3.2%. If something is very close to our hearts, we can't consume more than 4% or 4.5%. And for 4% and 4.5%, the big scale manufacturing cannot take place in India. And therefore, it's a very different strategy we have taken in the smartphones manufacturing in India. And I'll share that with you during the course of my conversation. Now, the second point I wanted to elaborate is about within the manufacturing, the importance of smartphones and the value it is going to create in manufacturing and in terms of people and the importance of that. So, why are we so low in terms of per capita income? The answer is very simple. We lack knowledge and skills as a country together, despite being a very large human capital. And this is the only reason why we are lacking behind and why our per capita income is low. Now, how human race has progressed from being a Homo sapiens to humans today is by the language which we created and started sharing information and knowledge. So what today these datas and the smartphones are doing is that it is enabling every single information and knowledge to a seeker. And while Mr. Waghela was sharing what kind of data usage is happening, the amount of data usage happening in India is very, very large. Till some time ago, we were, in terms of data consumption, we are very, very low, lower than US, lower than Japan, lower than Korea, lower than China. Today, we are consuming more data than all these 4 countries combined, and much more data. And therefore, what is happening, in terms of mobile data I'm talking about, therefore, what is happening right now, that the information and knowledge is getting proliferated to the bottommost people. And as they are going to grow, the country is going to grow from the bottom if at all we are not able to lead the country in the right way from the top. Because that's what has been the error of the past, as the way empowered people like us have led the country. I think we have not done a great job. And therefore, the value which is going to be created because of the data proliferation, information proliferation, knowledge proliferation to the bottommost people, it is going to grow. The demand from people like us, the politician, the bureaucrat, is going to grow. And there would be no option but for us to really grow in terms of our knowledge and deliver something what they want. Otherwise, we'll be taken out of our chairs, actually. So that's very, very important. This is what a smartphone, the proliferation is going to do. And coming back to the devices side, the smartphones, actually the way it is built today, every single electronics product, every single industry has boiled down to this one device. So you talk about the gaming industry, you talk about music industry, movies, you talk about cameras, calculators, no matter, you name it actually. Computers, every single device has now come into this one device. And therefore, it is of immense and huge value as a manufacturing industry and as a, at what it does to the people. So electronics actually is about total $2 trillion, out of which mobile is $500 billion. And the complexity of a mobile, because one, if the ecosystem can do a good mobile device, then rest of the electronics is like, like nothing, including IoTs, including all these things, because it is the most complex machinery within the mobile device, because it has everything, So therefore, it is at the core of every single electronics. Now, in terms of what are we doing as a country for manufacturing, as I shared with you that we understood that we can't manufacture for India when we look at the import substitution side. And when we looked at our opportunity, we are 18% people and just 3.2% of the global GDP. The only way for us to move out from poverty to wealth is to take our fair share from the global market. And therefore, the entire plan, which as an industry we have taken, is how can we export to the world. And on that mechanism, the entire national policy of electronics got built, and going forward, the PLI scheme which came is only because of that. So, to elaborate on this point, just we manufactured about 339 million devices in 2019, valued of about $25 billion. From this number, we are now looking at in the policy to manufacture 1 billion devices, which means that we'll be #1 manufacturing destination of devices in the world. And we are planning to create an ecosystem which is equally potent and large in time to come. So from 339 million to 1 billion, but in value terms, from 25 billion, we are targeting 190 billion devices. On export side, we have exported only 16 million devices. From 16 million, we are looking at exporting 600 million devices. And from $2.3 billion of export, we are looking at $110 billion of exports. So what it is going to do, and what it is doing as we speak right now, because millions of people now got deployed in this business, and millions are going to be deployed, and it is going to really take the economy to a very different level. So 5G actually is just a part of this entire prowess. We don't need to have, other than some equipment, etc. Once we are building this ecosystem, we just need to have, today our manufacturing ecosystem is 5G ready. We are producing 5G mobile phones in India, so that is no problem at all. So last, I wanted to give this message, to dream and dream big for those who want to come in this ecosystem and create something phenomenal from India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rai. I think you really, with some of the numbers, you really took the wind out of the lungs. It's rather gratifying to see how we are really gearing up for capturing a large part of the international market, which will really create the fillip. Manufacturing has always been the base of all the largest of the economies, and therefore it's a very important aspect that the age-old concept of manufacturing is at the center of what we are looking at accelerating our economic growth. So thank you again, much appreciate. So maybe I can continue with the questions to you, Mr. Rai, and put you on the spot, if I may. We've had the new, incentive-linked structure for manufacturing, which the government has announced. There are certain incentives for reaching certain targets, etc. Do you feel that from the kind of targets that you have put out for both manufacturing and therefore for export of devices and creating of the ecosystem there, enough has been done? If not, what else would you think that the government should actually put out for? And as you go on to this journey to try and create really more wealth through manufacturing, what are the key imperatives that you think one needs to put out for the roadmap on not only 5G, 6G, whatever, going forward?
So thank you. Hello. Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you very much for this question. So let me tell you, we are just at the beginning of our manufacturing and design journey. And PLI is just one of the schemes. Government is actually working to do a lot more things right now. Not just, what government should do. I'm saying government is right now doing. I'm privy of those information. I can share those informations with you here. So R&D and design is the second action point which the government is looking at. PLI is going to move the giant wheel of manufacturing in India. And that giant wheel is going to create a very large magnet industry. And around those magnet industry, we want to create a very large ecosystem of components and parts. And as we speak right now, government is doing these two things, R&D and design, and creating the ecosystem of parts and components. And for that, various schemes are coming up, including putting up of fabs, display fabs, the semiconductor fabs. That is a little long or far away, but I'm saying the part creation, the PMP program, actually government is doing all the right things. It is important now to work together and create something valuable for India. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rai. Mr. Tewatia, can I really ask you, I know you talked about fiber deployment being one of the bottlenecks or being one of the weakest links in the chain. Putting out that challenge is obviously the first part of the question, recognizing the limitation. But to effectively get the action and to solution the problem, where do you see, there is a huge capital layout, there will be the right-of-ways required. You will, like you mentioned, fiber in the ground and fiber in the air. In fact, I'm going to use that term going forward, sir. Thank you for coining that. What do you feel is really, what will be the key ingredients? If you were the chef and you were given all these ingredients, what would you really do to put this together to actually have some solution on the ground that can make this happen?
Thanks, Shobhit. So, am I audible enough? Yeah, okay, thanks. So, going back to what we were having before we came up on stage, we were having this discussion with Waghela ji. So, what the government has done is they've announced the National Broadband Mission, which is at the central level. And then there has been constitution of state broadband committees. Because by the time you have to actually, put the infrastructure, permissions have to be given starting from, the central level to the state, to the municipal, to the panchayat. Now, unless you have a uniform method of according approvals, while the DoT did institute the 2016 ROW rules, but then on the other side, states and panchayat or local self-governing bodies, they view telecom as the, milk cow, right? And the revenue, everybody wants to extract revenue upfront, which actually is becoming detrimental for the country. Because if you take all the money away, then there's very little money left to invest in capex. Because there are, in the network, there are two major investments. One is for spectrum, the other is for right-of-way. And both are permissions to be given by the government. So there is a huge, need to bring all these actors together so that, these permissions are given in time. And one very specific recommendation is that the National Broadband Mission in its portal itself can say, okay, in Tarang Sanchar, we've got the number of base stations down to a district. And in the state broadband committees, there are state committees and then there are district committees where the district collector is actually in charge and can see what is the telecom network infrastructure, how many towers, how many base stations. So if we put all this together on this portal, then you can actually monitor district by district whether, the network is actually being installed or not. And if it is not being installed, then based on the data available on these portals, you have a correcting policy mechanism to review and correct. If a policy is not being able to translate into, actual execution on ground, then maybe you need to review the policy, right? So these are some suggestions using an escalation matrix which goes, if a district commissioner is given a target, whether it's being met or not, and then it goes on to the state and then to the center.
Thank you, Mr. Tewatia. In fact, as you were mentioning, I recall something which I had the pleasure of reading and learning way back in my school days, which is really the trickle-down theory that Robert McNamara in the 1960s propounded in US, which said that policy is not the only thing. Finally, what and how that trickles down into action at the lowest level is when you will really create value and you will really uplift the society and the economic activity. So thank you so much for that. I think it's not only at the top level, but how it goes down to the panchayat level at one single block, which would really make the difference. So let me shift over to Mr. Pathak now. So, question to you. You talked about very important thing about the testing labs, the testing facilities that have been actually prepared upfront with some of the leading institutions that we have, the educational institutions of higher learning, IITs. Just going back into the regulation question. 5G, we are saying about the roadmap for the future, and there are already talks about 6G possibly being contemplated now in the US, etc. When you're looking at the roadmap for regulation, what would be your comments? And the second part of that question is that 5G is now the game has really moved a couple of notches higher than what 2G and possibly 3G we're looking at. It's a complete shift in technology. It's a complete shift in the way that business is going to be done. Are we also looking at winding down or reviewing all the regulations that were of the 2G, 1G, and possibly 2.5G and even touching 3G era, and rounding down those regulations? So one is the roadmap for the future for 5G and plus, and one looking at the 1G, 2G regulations which were there earlier, and they may need to wind down so that we can make the business a lot more simpler from a compliance perspective.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
sir. No.
Okay. So I think first question was on regulations for 5G. Let me first supplement the questions which I put up to Mr. Tewatia, that under the National Broadband Mission, right of way is I think what is very important for the 5G, and in that we are working with the state government, and already 23 states have come forward and they have adopted the central government policies of our right of way. And same in regulation, as I told, that it's not the right of way. There are so many other components also, maybe net neutrality, security aspects. So we have already recommendations given by expert committee, in which even operators are part of that what are the various actions to be taken for implementation of 5G in the country, like how can we use the even street furniture for 5G. So these we are working. So we have the recommendations, but still we are working, and we are each day liberalizing the sharing of infrastructure, following due procedure of consultation with the industry and naturally recommendations of our regulator. So we are taking the steps by steps in each direction.
Thank you, sir. My apologies. It's not the regulation. I was meant more of the policy. Regulation is obviously the part. But on the policy, yes.
Thoda mic nazdik karna.
Or regulation, very small part of regulation we are doing. But licensing and the conditions in the licensing, I think these are largely done by the DOT. So let us be very clear.
Yes.
Regulation. We believe in light touch regulation and forbearance. Yeah.
So light touch regulation is a good term. I think that's a very important. Even the Honorable Prime Minister, when he had taken oath, he had talked about maximum governance and minimum government. So I think that's a very important aspect if we can incorporate in our daily lives. Going back to Mr. Pathak, sir, on what I said about the 1G, 2G, all the things that were there earlier, are we looking at winding down some of those aspects as we look forward into 5G era?
So in fact, our licenses are technology neutral, let me say that. So even one can provide the 5G services even today, and we have recently done certain amendments that for providing the new services, you have to prior intimate to the government, and that period has been reduced from the 1 year to 6 months. Because you have to take certain actions, maybe lawful interception monitoring, you have to demonstrate certain things that whatever you provide, you are providing as per the rules. So there is nothing is specific to 5G, sir. It's all 2G, 3G, 4G, all are the same. And regulation will be the important part of that. And naturally, as I told that, sharing of infrastructure, active infrastructure, passive infrastructure, so those will be the, which will be required in addition to the existing, otherwise license is the same, it's technology neutral.
Thank you for that clarification. I think, Mr. Tewatia, you also wanted to add in to Mr. Pathak's response. Please.
Pathak sir, thank you very much. What comes to my mind, when I was a young boy and one had to buy a transistor, you had to take a license. That license, one had to buy that license, and that law still remains. So one of the things that we really need to look at is, because wireless, which at one time was, special item to be used, but today it is, everybody's using it and your lives are dependent on it. So there is a very strong case for reviewing the WPC processes. The kind of approvals, or if one can do a self-declaration and monitor it. So that is one suggestion. Thank you.
So, thank you, Mr. Tewatia. It reminded me, we were doing a part of our house cleaning because of a shifting, and there was a trunk with a lot of old documents, and I came across a small booklet which was the license to own a television in the 50s, right? So you even needed a license to have a television in your own house. So that just reminds, but obviously we've come a long way far, and thanks to a lot of good looking. I'll just open it to questions. I have two last questions quickly. I know we started late, so I'm taking the liberty of taking another 15 minutes forward in the thing, so please pardon me for that. I'll just hop on to Mr. Shri Waghela ji. Sir, you touched upon a very important topic or a very important attribute of this, that finally, because 5G is going to be more focused as a use case towards the industry, and industry always looks at ease of doing business, right? And therefore, you are really at the forefront of how all this you need to do to make sure that there is that ease for the business to adopt that technology. Any comments from your side on that will be helpful?
Actually, see what India has done in the last... Hello? Yeah. What India has done in the last 6-7 years with regard to ease of doing business, whatever the sector may be, is amazing. We have improved our ranking all over the world. Not only that, even in telecom and in information and broadcasting also, a lot of new things are being done. The issue of licensing was mentioned. If you remember, recently 2 decisions have been taken by the DOT on the basis of recommendation. One is the OSP, the licensing aspect has been, completely relaxed. And second is WANI. So WANI again, here licensing has been done away with completely. And DOT is, considering this, because, huge booklet of, license in which there are terms and conditions, chapter after chapter. I think, this requires revision, and government is, fully aware about this. See, what I believe, ease of doing business, there are a few dimensions. I will take some time. One is ease of doing business is with regard to approvals. Then second is with regard to compliance. You have taken approvals, you have got the registration, you have got the license, you have got the permit, but then your compliance. And third is audit. On the 3 aspects, when you talk about ease of doing business, we have to look it comprehensively.
Right.
And I think, any sector, you take any sector, all the 3 aspects, we have to have a fresh look. A lot of work has been done, ease of doing business has been brought down, lot of permissions are being given online. But there may be something which we require to check, because I was looking at the various kind of approvals which are being given by the 3 most important departments, that is DOT, then Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, because there's a lot of convergence. Then MITI. There is, these departments are separate, but not today, tomorrow, there has to be some sort of convergence between them. Hardware is not hardware alone. Software is also there. And software is not alone. I talked about 5G. It will be hardware also there. And same information and broadcasting is not simple, that there, OTT has already reached there. Now, OTT, who will control? MIT will control, DOT will control, information broadcasting will. So, this convergence of law and convergence of governance is very, very important if we really want to make a difference. We have done a lot. We are forging ahead. But what we believe that, so I checked how many approvals are there. So, odd around 156 approvals. So, I also checked of that how many approvals are online. Now, many of these approvals are online. But in many approvals, I think almost 30-40% approvals completely online. That means starting with the application till the approval. But in some cases, approval online is application is there, but you have to go and hand over the hard copy. And then you have to go personally there. And then there will be some, a lot of physical interface. So, this aspect we need to look. So, we have already started looking at this. And, some 5-6 principles we have adopted. One, that application should not be asking the details and which are not actually required. That is one thing. And details which are available in the public domain. If they are available in the, DigiLock, government ke jitne bhi ho system, so why are you asking? For example, companies, incorporation, there is a system called MCA. PAN number, why are you asking for a copy? Because NSDL, you can always link it. So there's so many other things, right? So many. For example, agreement, why person should come personally for signing the agreement to Delhi? There is no need. Agreement can be signed, e-signed it can be. And why? These are the, there are 3, 4, the application should be only asking information which are required. That secondly, there is a series of application permissions. If you go to the first get satellite permission, then go to DOT for taking the permission of the spectrum and all that, and then you go to TEC for products and all that. So if that one application, and it should move from one department to another. If there is a multiple linked permissions are required, that is the second aspect of application. Third, processes. Everybody should know what is the process. Application move from which stage to which stage, and who is the deciding authority. That is third thing. Fourth is timeline. Timeline should be fixed, and if possible, if the permissions are not given in time, it should be deemed the permission. Right? It's a third thing. Then, most important, transparency. Transparency cannot come if you handle the application physically. Transparency cannot come if you call the person physically, and transparency cannot come if you have to deposit the documents in physical form. So what is it? Transparency can come only online. And in India, what we have done in the last few years with regard to using the IT and the digitalization is amazing. So what we need to move one step forward. Where are the gaps that we need to look? And physical interface, I think we need to avoid for the obvious reasons. I need not discuss and elaborate over here. Physical interface should, for example, product is there. Some person from the manufacturing company or the research person, he can hand over these. He can send someone. The product can be handed over to the lab, or product can be handed over to the officer. For that, I doubt anybody should be. They should be going to the going to the offices and the labs. That we should avoid. Because see, I was chairman of the Empowered Group, convener of Empowered Group 3. So there, we were working on the manufacturing of N95, PPE, and then ventilators and testing kits. So there, person has to go physical application, and the samples are required to be submitted. There was no timeline. So you cannot manufacture in this. And now India is a net exporter of all the 4 items. Why? Because we decided that it has to be online, everything online. That is what our aim should be there. So that is one. And one more thing, ease of doing business, center alone cannot do, because for India is a federal country, and as far as telecom is concerned, for infrastructure development, the telecom operators and the government, central government, has to go to the state. And forget about state, they have to go to the local bodies also, because in the constitution there are center is there, state is there, 73rd, 74th amendment has created one layer, local bodies. So, this ecosystem has to cover that. And so everyone has to be taken on board. We have to persuade. What is most important is communication. So, we have to talk to the state, we have to talk to the local bodies, we have to tell them, if 5G or any other thing, if we really want that investment comes to their cities or to their state, they have to provide the infrastructure, and they have to consider that creation of infrastructure. They should, have some policy, incentive policy, I would say. Policies are there. 16 states are online, he told. But many local bodies are not online. As a taking permission of IBS, in-building permission, you run behind, you run after the president of the local resident welfare association. Why that you cannot create a portal where, a person, the telecom operator or the IPS or anyone, an ISP or anyone, he just, he knows the name of the company, he can apply online. And the society president should be required to give permission within a few days. Why not? Secondly, rates. There are huge divergence of rates, different kind of rates. In some states, they are imposing property tax on the, wires, on the duct. I was surprised. And the kind, so can't we have a system that, some standardization, not, I cannot say, but compulsory metropolitan cities, villages, then roads. For example, National Highway has National Highway Authority has national highways. State there are state roads, there are district roads, and there are village roads. And then within city, town, and villages also you have roads. So that also aspect requires. So so we are working on this. So this is the third point, that working with everyone. So incentivizing, and I think Mr. Divya did mention that we need to rank state. I have already written to DOT that we need to rank the state. But why only state? We need to rank cities, metropolitan cities, cities beyond 10 lakhs, cities with others, and we need to rank in preparedness of 5G, in preparedness of telecom infrastructure. That that may incentivize the state.
So in fact, I have taken a leap from that.
Thank you.
That will really help. In fact, I'm going to use that from an ease of business also on the overall level. Thank you. Your passion precedes you, sir.
We are working on that. A consultation paper we are going to issue, and we are going to recommend to the government, not only government, state government I cannot enforce. So naturally there has to be. We already have state committee and the district committee, and so that it is easy. DOT has created excellent infrastructure. Some gaps we need to fill in. We can do that.
No, thank you, sir. I think your passion precedes you, and I see the principle is being followed by the government. The very fact that we have introduced the faceless assessment, I think that's one out of the box regulation, and I hope that that will see a lot more success. Mr. Subramaniam, if I can come to you, sir. You really are at the helm of the body that recommends the standards. And I think two things which are extremely important as 5G proliferates is the fact is that, like Mr. Tewatia said, 13 GB per month, and we want to go to 50 GB. That's a huge amount of data. And therefore, there is a very important aspect of cyber security and data privacy that is coming in. I guess, Europe has obviously been leading there, but more and more the data protection and cyber security is becoming important. There almost every day there's news of some of the other cyber attacks being put in place. So I just wanted you, if you can help us reflect on what are the different kinds of standards that you're putting in place or recommending for these two aspects, critical aspects, to be put at the forefront of all of this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you. I think security is a very important element. It starts with each one of us as individuals. As we develop applications, security nowadays becomes the core or center to the overall design. I mean, that becomes the heart, so to speak. If that doesn't clear, then the application itself will not be successful. Even when applications like, if you take WhatsApp, a small announcement that it came some time back, the number of people got offloaded from WhatsApp was huge. So in that context, the standards, the application layer standards, how we are going to be incorporating security into it is going to be very crucial. And TSDSI as a body, we are initiated the consultations among academics as well as the OEMs and the number of others in evolving such a standards. The key is also not from a, let's say, overall protection, but the data privacy and the personal privacy is equally important. I think Europe took the lead with respect to the GDPR as a standard, and many countries have followed suit, and they have taken the cue and then implemented it. For example, in US, California has already implemented it. Canada is on with that. So India is clearly has a consultative paper on it, and a lot of the privacy standards are going to come. Singapore has taken the lead on it. So what we have taken a view is that to collectively put together a system by which, okay, cyber security is important. Can we even think of a cyber wall? Is the one approach. Second, so that what goes out and what comes in is really protected. The second element is that at the core of applications that are going to be running on the network, how do you make sure that honors all the privacy standards and privacy things? A lot of work still needs to be done, but TSDSA as an organization has taken up the element of application level standards, which is going to be very crucial in this. And our membership with the 1M, 2M, which is actually defining the standards for machine-to-machine communications. Our contribution there, especially with organizations like CDOT, is huge. And that's something that, again, we are defining the security aspects as machines and start to communicate with each other.
Thank you, Mr. Subramaniam. I think, no less emphasis can be paid on this crucial aspect in the eco-development of 5G and its proliferation. So, thank you, audience. I mean, you've been very patient and stayed on for a little longer. If there are any questions, please, I would request if you can come to the mic and please ask your question. You can even direct it to any specific panel member, or you can make it generic and whoever wants to respond.
Yeah, please. I think the mic is not. Is the mic working? Thank you.
Yes, mic is on.
Mr. Vaghela, it was so nice to hear you for the first time. It was amazing. This is really congratulating you for everything that you're doing, as well as first time being here in person was amazing. Thank you. Sir, the question which I have is with respect to many of our revered panelists talked about input versus output and output versus input. Sir, we are talking about 50 GB of data. If we go to the villages, for example, how much data a farmer needs in order for him or her to sustain and run what she or he wants to do? What is the analysis of this data? Have you done an analysis of this data saying why do we really need 50 GB per person? And what is the outcome of that? How much of that data is really translating into the GDP or the growth of GDP? Or someone talked about, Mr. Hari, you were fantastic, sir. You talked about, the GDP ratio in the world and all. How are these data translating directly to the lives of people and their happiness as well as livelihood and raising the level of standards of India? That's my question. Thank you so much, and I want to take a picture of myself. I appreciate that.
Could I also have your name, sir, please?
My name is Amanullah, and I'm from Mumbai. And it was a pleasure seeing Mr. Vaghela. I've read a lot about him, and of course about you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Maybe if I can just do a quick attempt. Yes, sir.
The technical 50 data he has spoken.
No, absolutely. I'll direct the question, but Mr. Amanullah, just a quick note on what you were saying. I can't say on pharma data especially, but there was an OECD report which was very well recognized. This was in the first decade of 2000, which actually put out that for each % increase in broadband proliferation, what is the conversion to the GDP increase in percentage? And what it did was it categorized different nations, developed nations, developing nations, and backward nations to say what percentage would be the correlation based on the study that they had done. And that was very well received, in that, in fact, ITU and a lot of other world telecom bodies then put out to a lot of governments to say that, see, this is a very credible report. For every 1% broadband proliferation that you do, your GDP will actually increase. And we are seeing that right now, right? With the work from home policy, there is so much hours that have actually been freed up for you to perform whatever your daily activity is, rather than you are from Bombay. You know how painful it is to get through the traffic. I used to do daily travel from Noida to Gurgaon, which used to take me 5 hours. 5 hours of time has been freed up. So that's just a reflection, sir. And anyways, I'll request Mr. Tewatia, if you can just add in. I know you are put on the spot because you gave all those numbers, so request.
No, so let me correct one thing. The NDCP says 50 Mbps, not Gbps, right? And today's consumption of per broadband subscriber is 13 Gbps. So there are two. Mbps is the speed which will you get inside. How much you will consume is the 13 Gbps, right? So that distinction I thought, let me clarify. Now the point is that how much does a farmer or how much does a leather manufacturer or how much does the banking industry, or I cited the example of milk, right? The question is, then I alluded to the digital readiness index of that vertical. You see, that data which is being produced, I would say that it is the responsibility of that nodal ministry or the research arm of that ministry to study that and come out with saying, okay, for the agricultural community, if I'm a wheat grower, for example, I want to drill down into try and explain that. If I'm a wheat grower, to grow wheat, what are the various cost of inputs? And to optimize that cost of input, whether it is fertilizer, water, transportation, packaging, all that, right? And then say what kind of sensors I need to put in the soil as soil sensors, or cameras to monitor if the wheat is okay, or to have a spray using a drone. So these are things which will have to be combined, the use cases which many of us said, and that's how you will use this technology to reduce your cost of input and therefore the overall GDP, right?
Can I add? Please. Now he has already told, see in 5G what is going to happen. A lot of use cases will come up. A lot of startups have already started working on that. So he mentioned about the, a farmer using the 5G use cases for, for example, irrigating his plants. So exactly what is the maturization? He can use the use cases. What is the maturization? What is the soil type? And how much water is required by that particular plant? Those kind of sensors will be there. Huge data will be generated. Now, there is a correlation between digitalization and spread of the connectivity and the growth in the economy. No doubt about that. So this is one thing. But there is another dimension to data, and which we need to remember is that, in India, not today or tomorrow, there is one thing is the ownership of data. We need to already, I think, Reliance had talked about this, that data should remain in India. Many other people are talking, and government also, is working on that. So the data, it is with us. This data can be monetized. And in a country like India, which is so diverse, in the form of, all aspects, we are very diverse. The kind of data if we monetize, for that also, data will be generated in 5G. Data will be generated when more digitalization take place, and data will be generated when more use cases come into place. Naturally, use of the connectivity will increase. So that is it is there. But what will be the future, I do not know. That is what I would like.
Mr. Rai, please. Yes.
Yeah. So, excuse me. Can you give the hello? Hello. Yeah. So you've asked how much data will a farmer require? Actually, there are two ways to look at anything. One way to look at a thing from the standpoint of weakness, and that I call scarcity. And another point to look at is the standpoint of strength or abundance. Actually, what a farmer requires, or what even the Prime Minister requires, or Mukesh Ambani requires, or whosoever requires, I don't think the data need and requirement would be less for someone and more for someone else, because it purely depends upon how curious are you in consumption of content, services, application, etc., etc. So I think what is required is not about farmer, etc. It is something, the data is something which is going to really build the country to a very different level altogether. And therefore, we need to create abundance of data so that, those who want to use it and improve their livelihood can happen.
Thank you, Mr. Rai. In fact, I must compliment both sides of the story. I've rarely seen a panel where one question being raised, you have three distinguished panelists who want to actually answer that. So it's more to you to raise such a good question, and also on the panelists that they have such passion about everything that they're talking that they want to add to that. So thank you on both sides. Any other question? I think at least, one more, but after that, unless there's one more that, yes, please. If you can identify yourself, sir, and then...
My name is Narayan Pandey. I am from Mumbai. And we are very fortunate to making a machine for mobile components. And I have heard Mr. Rai put a very valid point over the component manufacturing, mobile manufacturing in India. Because we all are talking about 5G for media transmission. But we are not thinking about the exporting the components to globe. Because he put the right thing, 4.4 million we are making, we are thinking 160 million export. So, we are very closely working with the very giant contract manufacturer like Foxconn, Tata. But now we have seen in India, we are not thinking of the technology of manufacturing mobile phones. We are still dependent on the import sides. So we are making a machine. But my only question, a lot of high-end people are available here. How government is going to support the machine tools industry who are making the machine for mobile components, for polishing, lapping, grinding, for volume production, like 1 lakh pieces per day. In that technology we are thinking. So that would be that is my question.
So is that a question to a specific panelist or it's a general question?
I said Rai sir has put the very in a nominous figure point, so he can tell me.
So before I answer your instant question, let me just give you a little bit of background about myself. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and this is my 4th business in the row. And before Lava, all 3 businesses, we became #1 in the country. In Lava also, by the way, this business, we are #1, but we got disrupted. And then I came to realize that we were becoming #1 was not because we were great. I was a good leader. No. I was a poor leader, but the competition was between poor and worse, and therefore we could do well. Then I recognized that in this business, which is internationally competitive business, unless you work with the government, because it's a competition between country and country and not between companies and companies. So then I started working with the government. What I realized, I earlier used to feel that there are 6 forces responsible for the pathetic situation of India. A politician, bureaucrat, entrepreneur, high-level professional, media and judiciary. But in the last 2 years that I've interacted with the government, I feel only one person responsible, and that is the entrepreneur who has gone to a high level. Because government did not get enough exposure to do and knowledge. But as if the entrepreneurs really work together, and government is hungry to do the right things, give exposure, let me tell you, whatever you are saying, if you really work with the government and create that, for example, components, parts, etc., and if your strategy is right, and you are not thinking from the crony capitalism mindset, and truly thinking about the country, government is ready to do anything, and hungry and eager to do anything. That's what is my experience. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rai. That's a nice and fresh perspective, and I think I'll borrow your lines from there as well. So pardon me if you do hear a statement which is borrowed from your principle. Thank you for that. Any other questions? Okay, I know we've run over time. I'll just take another half a minute or maybe a minute to just conclude on some of these points. I think what we've seen in the last 1.5 hours is some very, very fresh thoughts, a fresh approach, to what we could see in the near future. Some are obviously obvious questions being answered, but I'll try and, conclude with some of them. One fresh approach is, this ease of doing business is now becoming a buzzword. And hopefully we will see this to be at the heart of change in a lot of things, not only in business. I think even our approach towards, as a society, towards various things. And like Mr. Rai said, that entrepreneur also has to change their outlook rather than only making profit towards where they want to see their nation, and then the government would be an eager contributor in that. Sharing of infrastructure is equally important. The startups and the use cases for indigenous sectors and small-scale industry is a very, very important contributor in the proliferation of this journey. 5G will be an applications, it will have software, it will be driven through softwares. Can we take the lead in so many spheres as we have? Can we take the lead in this as well? The standards of interoperability for application layers, labs for testing, use cases, and for security. We have, Mr. Pathak mentioned about so many testing facilities that have come up in the IITs at Madras, Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and obviously the NDCP. The first use case lab at Hyderabad, the 5G hackathons that have been organized where 100 winners were identified. I think that's a very important way of encouraging. I have always believed, and I've seen over the last 2 decades and some years of my consulting experience, that encouragement is a very, very key ingredient to the success of any initiative or measure that you take. And this is really towards that. One thing that Mr. Tewatia brought out, which is a very important thing, and we keep accusing our TSPs, the operators who really enable us to do our telecommunication services. अरे ये network इधर बेकार है, यहाँ तो connectivity नहीं चलती, 4G बेकार है. But please remember one thing, and I was reading some statistics, and I'll add one more thing to that and give it a flavor and a color. You will not believe what he said was the heavy data was really primarily towards the commercial end, the industrial end of the network. But with work from home, overnight, 50% of that data has actually moved to a residential and a consumer-based network. So the amount of fine balancing that each of these telecom operators have had to do, and with the lockdowns, they were very thin on both their own internal workforce and the third-party workforce that they typically use to actually balance out these networks, reconfigure. Everything is not the SDNs that you switch a button and everything gets reconfigured. A lot of it was required physical aspects, and therefore the rebalancing of that network from commercial infrastructure to the one which was really carrying your domestic infrastructure and the consumer data. That has been a significant shift. I think 2 important points that were brought out on digital readiness index and broadband readiness index. I think that's a very important point, and Mr. Vakila, very clearly said that we are looking at that aspect. That's another phenomenal point that we might bring out towards how ready our infrastructure is, both at a city level, at a state level, and then at a national level, right? That is going to be a very important aspect. He also alluded to the densification of networks. I think that's a very physical aspect. This is very logical. There is no 2 ways that you can get away from it. The only point will be how can we maintain the beauty of our architecture and of our cities while we actually densify a large part of these networks. Obviously, these are on small cell basis. It will also give rise to a lot more other questions around power availability, although these will not require a fraction of the power that we've had in the earlier generations. Then the central ROW portal, I think that was a very interesting concept that was brought out. Mr. Rai was obviously phenomenal in terms of how he reflected on the manufacturing shift that needs to be, and our ambitions, our actions will only be or follow our ambitions. And if our ambitions are only restricted to a domestic policy, we'll do it that way. But if we really look at conquering the world like we have, and like he said, that this is his 4th enterprise, and in all cases he become number 1, why can't we become number 1 in this as well? And the last, a very interesting point from obviously a regulator to say that we talk about convergence in industry, we talk about convergence in our activities. Why can't there be convergence from a government point of view in departments, so that the real ease of doing business can actually be converged, and we can look at a lot lesser compliance than what is typically what has been. So with that, I would really give a heartfelt vote of thanks to Shri Vaghela ji, Mr. Subramaniam, Mr. Tewatia, Mr. Rai and Mr. Pathak for spending the time away from their work. This has been, I have learned a lot from this session, and I hope you share that enthusiasm and also that absorption. So once again, thank you so much.
So thank you everyone for being here. It's been a really interesting discussion, and I think we've raised the bar for the next 3 days substantially with this one. Just to end, we'd like to felicitate all our speakers with a small memento. Shobit, if you do the honors. Mr. Vaghela. Thank you, sir, again. Shobit for Mr. Subramaniam, Chairman TSDSI, CEO TCS. Thank you, sir. To Mr. Hari Om Rai, Chairman and Managing Director, Lava International. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. And to Mr. Tewatia, COAI, thank you so much, sir. And to Mr. Pathak, thank you, sir, Deputy Director General, Department of Telecom. Thank you for being here. And lastly, Shobit, thank you. You did such an amazing